come and hang out with you guys tonight. Just to dive in a little bit before we get started, like Jason said, I've been down in here in Nephi for 10 years with my wife and 3 boys. We live up by the high school. My oldest is a freshman, going to be a sophomore, and I have one that's going to be a freshman, and then one going into the 6th grade. So I love my family, thankful for them, thankful for this community. Serve on the school board recently as of January, which has been really fun, being in there with Darren. It's been awesome. About 7 years ago in April, just a few months ago, I co-founded a company called Peak Refuel. I was in the freeze-dried world, which is not exciting, I promise you, by any means, but I was in that world. I've been in that world for 20 years, but 7 years ago, me and a couple of my buddies that I worked with on the marketing side of it, we launched a brand, we built and launched a brand called Peak Refuel, which is an outdoor meal company specifically for hunters and backpackers and hikers. We're in REI, Sportsman, Shills, Cabela's, Bass. We have collaborations with Meat Eater. Those of you that are familiar with the outdoor industry, Meat Eater, Chad Mendez, some other UFC fighters, to kind of target our product into all different areas. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So that's kind of what my focus has been on the last 7 years, is building brands and building a brand, launching a brand, and then taking it to market from essentially nothing. And not only taking it to market, but taking a product. We have a physical product. Now, I know a lot of you in the room probably have either a service, a product, or an offering, or something. A lot of my experience is around particular physical products, mainly consumable products. And so I'm going to probably lean towards that a lot, but it is relatable across all different types of business, no matter what you have. And so I'll spend a lot of my time on that. But the great thing about marketing is it's applicable across all avenues, right? Now, marketing's tricky to talk about because it's different for everybody as far as whatever your demographic is, right? Traditional marketing, digital marketing, affiliate marketing, whatever it is, it kind of depends on what your demographic and what your product is, and we'll talk about that here in just a minute. But along with Peak Refuel over the last couple of years, I oversee all the marketing at a local brand here, Bart Beef. If any of you guys are familiar with that company, I do all the marketing and brand building for Bar W. We started the actual brand development of it just about 2.5 years ago, and then we launched, the processing plant and then took it to market just last year. So in a lot of different things, I get pulled a lot of different directions with marketing and see a lot of different things, and I've seen a lot of different things over the years. So I'm excited to be here, excited to talk to you. If you got any questions, feel free to ask, or you can save until the end. I don't know the format of this. I don't know if you do questions.
Usually at the end, but if you think you're going to forget,
at the end too.
Then you can ask before.
As well. So, but I am going to hit on a lot of things. So, does anyone recognize this phrase? Here's to the crazy ones. This is from a campaign that's probably my favorite marketing campaign that's ever been. Came out in '97. Anyone familiar with this? We'll talk about it in just a minute. We might even watch the campaign at the end, but it's from Apple. Okay, it's when Steve Jobs came back to save Apple in '97, and he created a campaign called "Here's to the Crazy Ones." And I like this campaign a lot because if you're in marketing or you're a business owner in general, you got to be a little crazy. You can't be sane in the head. You got to be just a little off your rocker a little bit to enjoy the challenge, to enjoy the grind of what it is to build a business, no matter what it is. You got to be a little crazy. And that's what's going to make you successful. That's what's going to make you change, grow, progress, whatever it is. Just, it's okay to be a little crazy. And we'll talk about this. So here's to the crazy ones. But we're going to talk about a lot of these different things throughout this. You've probably seen a lot of buzzwords when it comes to marketing, from what's traditional and digital, which one should I do? Do I need a website? Do I need to go after influencers? Should I use social media? Should I use guerrilla marketing? Should I use organic marketing? Should I use Social media, what's my brand Bible, what's my value, what's my mission? There's just so many buzzwords out there when it comes to marketing that it can get very overwhelming. Very overwhelming. So I'm going to try to keep it simple. I'm not going to get lost in the weeds, hopefully, tonight. So, sorry to disappoint you, but if you came to figure out how to do a social media post, or how to boost a Facebook post, or how to do a campaign on Facebook or on Instagram, I'm not going to get lost in the weeds with that, because there are about 10 trillion videos on Facebook or on YouTube that will show you how to do that, right? And the thing is, a video that came up 2 weeks ago is going to be outdated when it comes to digital marketing. It is the most fluid market out there. It's always changing. Once you think you've figured digital marketing out, it changes. The algorithm changes and strategies change. So you've got to keep that in mind. You've got to be fluid when it comes to your marketing strategy. You've got to be able to pivot and change and be able to react, because the market always changes. It's not slowing down ever. Technology is moving forward. The way people consume content is moving forward. And so you have to be able to be forward thinking and be able to adapt and react. We'll talk about that in a minute. But before we start, I have a short video that I want to watch to kind of set the tone, to kind of help get our mind set when it comes to thinking outside the box and thinking about building a marketing strategy. Let's see if it'll play. It's old, so it might be a little grainy.
I wrote the same. Different words.
All right. So, had anyone seen that before? Anyone?
No, the guy in the movie didn't see it.
Yeah, right? It's pretty cool. I remember the first time seeing that, watching it, and I was like, oh, I was so curious. Like, what did that lady write on that sign to change whatever conversion is that guy's getting, right? And trying to relate it into business. I remember I was in school, and one of my marketing teachers showed that, and he did that to really show the power of words and how your messaging and how you view your product and how you think differently with just the way the status quo is and how that can change the outcome. Because I view all of us just like that guy sitting down. Whoever's here is starting a company or has a company, chances are there's somebody else doing the exact same thing. There's competition exists out there, right? Chances are somebody's doing the same thing as you are, right? But are you doing the same things that the person next to you are doing, or your competition's doing? In this case, I think we've all walked down the street and seen, someone that is a panhandler that's got a sign that says, help, I'm blind, or I've lost my job, or I need gas money, or whatever, right? We've all seen that. Everyone's doing that. It's just like, out there in the marketing world, in the digital world, in the traditional marketing world, all the messages seem to blend together. Everything is the same. Oh, I've got the best product because it does this. Or we're the best this because we offer this. They all say the same things. Maybe the words are tweaked a little bit. But if you can think differently a little bit, change the message just slightly, like she did, it's a beautiful day, and I can't see it. That hits differently than I'm blind, please help. And it changes the outcome. So now obviously it's not that easy. You gotta be creative, and you gotta think outside of the box, and you gotta push yourself, and you gotta challenge yourself. How can I think differently than what my neighbor's doing or my competition is doing? Because they're all doing the exact same thing. It's a noisy world out there. We'll talk about that in a minute, but how can you think of it differently? So start with this question. I'm gonna start with a question, why does your brand exist? So if you have a company, I'm assuming everyone here is either ready to start a business or start in the middle or has one. Is that right? Is that why everyone's here, I'm assuming? Okay. So think to yourself, why does your brand exist? To serve a service, to offer goods? Does it exist to make you rich, to wealthy, to live the lifestyle that you want, to help other people? It's okay if that's the case. That's awesome. I think we all should want that why, right? Think that question, think about that. Why does your brand exist? Then think about the question, why do you do it? So why does it exist? And then why do you do it? Has anyone seen this chart right here? It's called The Golden Circle before, a book from Simon Sinek. Start with why. Has anyone, you obviously, has anyone else heard of that book or seen that book? I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on it, but I'm just going to illustrate the Golden Circle concept. Because this concept is going to help you when you create your marketing strategy and hopefully dictate every business decision that you make when it comes, one as a business owner, but also when with your market strategy and also with your brand building and your brand positioning, okay? So most people start from the outside in. They understand what you do. Whether you're you have a gym, or you're a real estate agent, or you have a product for sale, or you have a batting cage in town. I'm trying to think of, I know some of your guys' businesses out there. Like, you know what you do, right? And you know how you do it. But a lot of people just don't understand why you do it. And that's why I asked those two questions. Why do you do what you do? Why do you do it? And if you start with the why and go backwards and work from the outside, from the inside out, it's going to help you build a strong brand that people are going to want to connect with. So I have the example here of Apple on here. I'm going to use a lot of examples from Apple because I like Apple quite a bit. But if you think Apple, in all their messaging and all their marketing and all their branding, if they say, we make computers, our products are beautifully designed and easy to use. If they started like that, that doesn't really excite anybody. Yeah, you make computers, they're beautiful, they're easy to use. That might affect some people, but not really. They operate from the inside out. So they operate from the why. We believe in challenging the status quo and doing this differently. So that's all of their messaging right there. They start with that. We believe in challenging the status quo and doing things differently. Then they move to, our products are beautifully designed and easy to use. And then they say, we make computers. A lot of people go, oh, I can get behind. That's why Apple is so gigantic and so successful and is a brand that people resonate to, is because of the way that they message and connect with their customers. They explain their why. Their why is tattooed all over their marketing messages, all over their ads, all over the campaigns you see on TV, all the campaigns you see on social media, all the campaigns you see through all their influencers. It all talks about how they challenge the status quo to get people to think differently. Then they make beautiful computers. Then they make beautiful products. Oh yeah, we make computers, technology devices, right? So they start from here and work out. That's what I want us all to understand before we dive into everything, and what you need to challenge yourself at. What is your why? Why are you doing what you're doing? And if it's to make a buttload of money, awesome. You've got to get a creative way to create a message around that. But understand your why first, and then how you do it, and then what you guys do. So start with that, and then from there, you've got to start with a mission statement. Let me just ask a question. For those of you that own a business or have a business, who has a mission statement for your business? Anyone? You do?
I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Okay.
That was
Well,
somewhere.
you have one, right? Okay, if you don't, I'll challenge you right now. We're going to talk about this because this is something big in marketing that everyone oversees, and maybe they do this as an afterthought. They do everything else and they go, oh crap, we should probably write a mission statement and get it up. If you've done that, that's okay, but you've done it backwards because you want to start with your why. Your mission statement's got to encapsulate what your why is and why you're doing what you're doing to get people bought into what you stand for, what your values are. Essentially, a mission statement communicates the core purpose and values of the organization and guides its actions and decision making. This is the most important part of it. It guides your actions and decision making. Because you may right now at this point be a small company in your garage or in your basement, and you're going to grow that, and you're going to come to a crossroads in your business where maybe something's going to be challenging for you, and you're going, I don't know what we need to do here. I have no idea. Well, let me go back to my mission statement because it's going to help me guide my actions. Does it resonate with who we are as a brand and as a company? If it doesn't align with my mission statement, then I'm not going to make that decision because it's not who I am at my core. It's not my why. It's not going to what's going to make me be successful. Now, can mission statements change? Yeah, they can. They can evolve, right? It's not set in stone. You make a mission statement and that's it, right? Because your company evolves and progresses and you expand. But at your why and your core values should be pretty solid, right? And your mission statement should encompass that and can kind of be fluid around that. So, for example, let me share a couple mission statements with you and we can see if you can guess who these people are, okay? So, first one here, who's this? To bring inspiration and innovation to every athlete in the world. Any ideas on who that might be as a mission statement?
Nike, Adidas.
Nike? You guys can see my screen. That was an easy one. Yes, Nike. So ask yourself a question. Think about all the ads you get fed from Nike. How everything you see from Nike. Does it lead back to this? They do a lot of campaigns and a lot of marketing around inspiration, right? That's a big part of who they are. They want to inspire and innovate in the world of athletics, right? So I think they hold pretty true to their mission statement. Next one. We connect the people and cultures of the globe, delivering meaningful experiences and driving economic value. Any idea?
Is it an
This is a
airline?
tricky one. Ooh, who said that?
An airline? Yeah.
Yes,
Is it? Okay.
it is. It's Delta. Delta, right there. It was a trickier one, but well done. Right there. Perfect. So, actually, I mean, whether or not you love Delta or not, ask yourself these questions. When you think about that brand, what does it stand for? Does it resonate with their mission statement? Are they true to their mission statement? Next
That's
question.
pretty pricey.
Yeah.
What's
I'd
that?
say probably not anymore.
Right. To create durable and high-performing products that are built to last and improve people's time outdoors.
Yours.
Mine? No. Good. But I will. I'll talk about that in a minute. That's
Like REI?
no. It's Yeti. So this is Yeti. And Yeti, I love everything about Yeti. Not because they have expensive coolers. I'm not I love their products. It's cool. It's not like I'm in love with their products, but I'm in love with how they built their brand. A company that can build a brand off a cooler, and there was that phase early on in their brand where you had to have a Yeti cooler. Like their marketing was like, I'm gonna spend $1,000 on a cooler. Are you crazy? But they made you feel like you had to be a part of the Yeti tribe. You wanted to do it because that cooler is going to save me if a bear comes in and tries to get my drinks. Like you had to have it. Then they came out with their cups. You had to have. Now the cup industry has gone bananas. But Yeti kind of started that craze. And if you ever do a case study on a brand, Yeti is phenomenal. Like they've crossed over onto every single market from the backpacking and hiking REI crowd, right? To the rodeo crowd, to the hunting crowd, to the extreme snowmobile crowd. Like they go and attack a demographic and then shift to another one, then shift to another one, and shift to another one without alienating any of the demographics. Like they are phenomenal at what they do. This one, there's someone in here that should do this. Provide high quality, compassionate care to patients, their families, and friends. Anyone? CBMC? I didn't want to stare at you, Lindsay. But yeah, CBMC, that's, I don't know if this is an up-to-date mission statement or not, but this came off their website, right? But I just shared, I share this because mission statement, if you don't have one, again, I would encourage you to figure out your why, look at that golden circle, find out why you do what you do, how you guys do what you guys do, and then create a mission statement. It doesn't need to be long. As you saw, they're 1 to 2 sentences long. This isn't like a 4-paragraph mission statement. It's something that you can remember that is like your compass, that is a brand, that you guys understand who you guys are. And that's what's gonna help you be successful. There's a couple things that I'm just gonna hit on before we dive into some other things. The next one that I was asked to talk on was logo concepts. Does anyone have logos? Like, I'm assuming everyone has a logo for their brand. Awesome. If you haven't gotten one yet, and you're trying to figure it out, or you're going through a rebrand, because the same thing, a lot of people rebrand. You create a logo, it evolves, the company changes, and you need to refresh. People do it all the time, right? But if you don't have a logo, or you're thinking about creating one, or you have one already that you're like, hey, maybe I need to rethink how it looks, because what we're going to talk about is going to matter about your logo. A couple things to think about. Make sure it's simple, that it's memorable, versatile, and timeless. So what I mean by that, simple means there's busy logos out there where you look at it and you get dizzy, and you're like, whew, man, I'm not sure about that logo. I don't even know what it's trying to represent. I'll show you one here in a minute. Memorable. When you see a logo and it just pops in your head, you're like, man, when you see it, you know. It's hard to describe, but you know, for example, when you see an apple, what it represents, right? When you see the Nike swoosh, like all these memorable logos. Now, again, these are big companies I'm talking about. But when you guys think about what your mission statement is, what you stand for, what your values are, your logo should also encompass that, right? It needs to be memorable.
My husband is an adjunct professor at BYU Idaho. He teaches graphic design, and logo design is part of it. But one of the tests that he teaches you have to do with your logo is called the silhouette test. Turn it into a silhouette, and if you can tell what it is, then you're in good shape. But if you can't, then you might want to rethink the shape and the way it looks.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. That's very valuable, yeah. Versatile. It kind of goes along with that. What does versatile mean? Well, you got to think about your logo. You want that logo to be on everything. You want that plastered everywhere. You want people to be able to recognize that. And if it's a logo that you can't put on a shirt or on a hat or on a business card because the words then are too small and you can't see it and somebody's gonna, what is that? You know, or it can't be on an ad, whether it's in a magazine or digitally on a website. Like, think about all these things when you're creating your logo. It needs to be versatile. It needs to be able to resonate across all these different textiles and, you know, on a wrap on a truck or on a van or whatever it is, right? Like, a lot of people don't think about that. They just kind of, oh yeah, this is a cool logo. Well, it's a cool logo, but that you can't tell what that is when it's on a business card or when it's on the back of a van or something like that. And then timeless. So here, a quick example. This is Apple's very first logo that they launched with. Probably no one's probably never seen this before. And it's good reason, because that is the busiest, weirdest looking logo ever.
If you had another product, it'd probably be worth $1 million.
Exactly. But they're trying to tell this story with, you know, the apple hitting them in the head and the Apple company, right? It was really busy. And then it evolved over time to what we now know is just the Apple, right? I won't go through any other examples, but if you've got time, just Google just Apple, logo progression with all the different companies out there. It is really cool to see how all these companies have evolved over time. Because you learn in business, you learn as you go. And what you think, what you know now might be awesome and might be something you're like, yeah, this is gonna resonate, this is gonna take us to the next level. But then in 3 years, you're like, that was a bad decision. I don't know if I should have done that. And you've gotta change it, you gotta evolve. And all these companies, you know, nobody's immune to this. Even the biggest Fortune 5 companies out there, they've all gone through it. They all started in the basement, just like, you know, all of us that we're trying to do, and they've evolved over time. So just because, again, same thing with mission statement, when you create your logo, you're not stuck to that, you're not married to that. But think about those things, simple, memorable, versatile, and timeless, when you're thinking about your logo. Okay, shows that one more time. So next thing, market strategy. This is, I think, what everyone kind of wants to spend some time on. So let's talk about market strategy. The big question is traditional marketing, digital marketing. Has anyone sat down and I don't. This is the last one that you guys have done, but did you guys do one where you wrote like a business strategy or anything like that? No?
Not yet.
Any of the earlier ones? Okay. Has anyone written a market strategy before? A few of you? In classes? Yeah.
And by the way, we have free help to do that, so get with me after if you haven't done that. We've got Snow College will help you with that.
Yeah. So when you're thinking about your market strategy, the number one question that everyone asks is, should I spend more effort and energy and time on traditional marketing versus digital marketing? Now, just to hit on that, so you guys understand the difference, let me ask first, does people understand traditional marketing, what that is, right? Commercials, radio, billboards, magazines. What did you say? Yes. Yeah. Yes, that is very traditional, right? And then there's digital marketing, right? The digital marketing kind of evolved over the last, whenever social media, Facebook, MySpace, when they first started back in the early 2000s, and then it evolved with Twitter and Instagram and TikTok and all the social channels. YouTube changed everything. They're all different beasts. They're all very different. If you think it's a copy paste for all of them, it's not. They all have different strengths, different values. Now again, I'll go back to what I said at the beginning. What you need to choose and what you need to work into your business strategy or your market strategy definitely goes down to who your demographic is, what your products are that you're selling or your service that you're selling, and how your demographics, how they consume their content, right? You got to take all these things into consideration. For example, like if you've got a product, like for us, for example, I'll go back to my company. When we started, it was a younger demographic. It was an outdoor demographic, mainly men that hunt, that fish, that hike. Also, women do that as well, but we were 70% men. Where do these men? The number one question we always asked ourselves is, how do they consume content? How do these people consume content? And it was, for us, it was Instagram. And so that's where we built a lot of our market strategy, was around Instagram. Did we do traditional marketing? A lot of people ask that. We didn't do a whole lot of traditional marketing because we were a brand that we launched nationally. And so it was easier for us to get a bigger bang for our buck to do more digital. Now, we didn't have a lot of money, so we had to do a lot of guerrilla marketing or a lot of organic marketing. We had to think outside of the box to get our product in people's hands. That was the number one question that we asked ourselves, and that's a question that you should probably ask yourself as you're building this strategy. How do you get your good or your service, your product, your message, whatever it is you're selling, how do you get it into your customers' hands, or how do you get it in front of them, right? For us, I'll use us as an example. We had a physical product. It was a consumable that people had to eat. So for us, we said, how do we get this into their hands? Because we knew we had a product. What we knew and what we believed on, which was our mission statement, we had a superior product that was out on the market. There was 2 other large companies that were doing what we did, and they had been in it a lot longer than we had been. 30, 40 plus years, and here's this new company coming in, but we knew we had a superior product. We knew it. Our food was better. We used real meat. We used real ingredients. We didn't use any fake stuff that they were using to keep their costs down. Now, we were a higher priced item, but we knew that companies, or not companies, we knew people would pay for quality. We knew it. We knew we had a better product. So with that, we knew that we needed to go national, and so we just needed to get it into people's hands. And what we did was we dove like headfirst into digital marketing strategies with affiliates, influencers, podcasts. We were giving away so much product to people to try to just get them to talk about it, right? Because it was a consumable, we knew we needed repeat buyers. We knew that if they could just try it once, they're gonna come back. It's a little bit different if you have a hard good that's $300 or $400 or a service that somebody uses like once a year. It's a little bit hard to just give it to them for free, right? Because then they don't come back for another year or two, or they, if they're purchasing a house or whatever it is, sometimes it's just a one-time purchase for a lot of companies. But for us, we knew the turn was 3 or 4 purchases a year. So if we could just get hooked on one, then we were golden. And so we did a blitz on social media. Me and my partner, we spent way too much time on Instagram trying to think of people we needed to get our food in their hands. And so I would go, this is me thinking differently and thinking outside of the box, but I would go to our competitors' Instagram pages, and I would go to their followers, people that were following them, and then I would message them. Instagram back in 2018 would only let me send like 40 messages a day. So I would send 40 messages every single day to someone that was following our competitor that had a big following, a big network. And it was very tedious and it sucked, but we did it. And over time, that's how we grew it. We'd say, hey, I'm Bart, we just started this company. We believe that you care about what goes into your body in the outdoors. You're probably getting gut bombs now from this other stuff. Can I get your shipping address so I can send you some stuff? And we'd send them 2 meals, and that was it, which cost for us was maybe $8 or $9. But for us, it was like, that's worth the investment. For us, that's where we spent our marketing dollars, was giving away products to people just to get them to try it. And so think about that, internalize that on your individual areas. Now I know a lot of people just can't give out free product, but you might have something else similar to that you can offer to somebody that just experience what you guys are offering in a way where you can get them hooked, that you can get them believing in what you guys are doing. And because of that, I'll share a little example here in a minute. We were able to kind of open up the floodgates, and a lot of good things happened from that. So think about all the different digital marketing areas that you can do from, we'll talk about it here in a second. So the question is, do you need to do traditional marketing or digital marketing? The truth is you need to do both. You need to do traditional and you need to do digital. If you ignore the one and focus on the other, you're doing yourself a disservice. Because chances are you've got consumers and your demographic plays in both worlds. They play in all different types of sandboxes. So if you're not looking for ways to get into a magazine or to get somebody to talk about you on a radio or to get stickers on people's cars or to do a billboard or to do magazines or to do social ads or to do affiliate work, the list will go on, which we'll talk about in a minute. If you ignore one and just focus on the other, you're going to be left behind. You've got to look at it and you got to play in both worlds. And you got to find out what works for you in both worlds. There's one of my favorite movies that I like to watch and think about. Who's seen Moneyball? Everyone seen Moneyball? It's like one of my favorite movies ever, right? There's a scene in Moneyball, Brad Pitt's character, Billy Bean, has just brought in the wizard, the guy, the analytics guy in baseball, who he's got a new strategy in baseball. He's managing the A's, and the A's have like no budget. What was the line, Darren? There's 40 feet of junk, and then they're the crap under the junk or something like that, right? That's the A's budget. Like, they had nothing. And they were developing all these great players, and they were just getting gutted by the richer teams, the Yankees and the Red Sox. So he had to think of a better way to keep his talent, and he came up with a way through analytics to go, okay, we don't need the best players, we just need to get people to get on base. We just need to get people to get wins, right? And so he came up with this strategy, but it really upset his scouts, the people that had invested so much time and energy in scouting players and telling them, these are the players you need to sign. And he pretty much said, I'm not going to sign any of those. I'm going to go with what the numbers tell me, and we're going to sign all these no-namers because they get on base. Anyway, there's this famous scene where they confront each other in the hallway of the clubhouse. The line that always resonates with me from this scene is Billy says, you need to adapt or die. Essentially telling old baseball scouts, you need to adapt and look to the future, or it's going to die, or this prehistoric way of thinking in baseball is going to die. And it's the same way in business when I look at that. There's so many businesses and so many people out there that are scared to dive in to new ways of marketing your product. They're scared to get in front of a camera. They're embarrassed to stare at a screen and talk to people, right? I am too. But you have to adapt. This is the world that we live in. This is how people are consuming content. This is how people get their information. This is how people don't trust companies anymore, really, at all. No one trusts companies anymore. They trust people that are talking about the companies on social media. And so finding ways to get people to talk about your brand, finding ways for you to talk about your brand, that's adapting. That's understanding that you need to adapt or you're falling behind or you're dying. And it is uncomfortable. It's scary. But you gotta think outside of the box that way. We'll talk about some examples there of what we can do. Because like I mentioned earlier, it's extremely noisy out there. Extremely noisy. Like I said earlier, there is competition, whatever you're selling. There is 15 other people doing the exact same thing that you're doing, and they're trying to do it the same way that you're doing it. They're doing it through social media, they're doing it through traditional marketing, through podcasts, through blogs, through you name it, affiliates. They're doing the same thing that you're doing. And it's a matter of, okay, who can figure out what your why is, figure out your messaging, and figure out how to do it differently than the person next to me or the people fighting for the same thing I'm fighting for. Because it is noisy out there. Working with since Bar W Beef opened up, we launched the website back in October to sell beef online. Started running ads and trying to do these principles that we're talking about. Quickly found out that anyone that raises cattle is trying to do the exact same thing that they're doing. And they're saying the exact same thing. 100% American beef, raised by American ranchers, delivered to your door. It's not like we came up with this grand concept that, now we've got this American beef. We must be, no, everyone who has cattle, beef, they're doing the same thing. And they should be doing that because that's what they do, right? But it's saturated. Everyone's doing it. And there's nothing wrong with it. But that is the first problem there, is you have to figure out how are you going to cut through the noise and how are you going to be different. How are you going to be different than somebody else 2 towns over that also raises cattle that's selling beef? Well, I got to think differently. I've got to think about, am I saying I'm blind, please help me? Or do I got to change my message and say, it's a beautiful day and I can't see? That's an example of that. You've got to think differently than your competition. You got to be aware of them. You got to understand, what are they doing? One of my favorite things when we were building our brand is, I told you I love the brand Yeti, is I watched Yeti all the time. We spoke to the same customers, but we are completely different products. But we were trying to sell to the same people. And they were this billion-dollar company, and we were this small company starting in the basement of a building. but I watched them like a hawk, and I subscribed to their newsletters, I followed them on social, I tried to connect with some of their ambassadors, trying to see what they were doing, because they were spending millions of dollars on market research with marketing consultant agencies to tell them what to do. And so I was just copying them. It's like, they're paying the money and doing it, I'm gonna copy and do exactly what they're doing, but I use the word peakify it. My company was called Peak Refuel, so we're gonna peakify it a little bit. What is Yeti doing? And we're gonna tailor it and do the same thing, but we're gonna do it for us. An example that I'll show here. They started getting into the storytelling side of their business. They sponsored all these athletes or these special interest, inspirational stories that they were telling about people that had nothing to do with coolers or cups. Absolutely nothing to do with it. But these were people that were buying their stuff, and they had incredible stories. So they started this thing called Yeti Presents, where they would do a short video on this particular person, and they would travel the country and host a big event, and they would show that video. And they would invite everyone to come, and they'd get other brands to come in, and they'd invite it, and they'd show that video. I copied it. And we created a film series called Peak to Peak, where we did the exact same thing, and we did it up at Sundance. And we would produce lifestyle stories about people in the outdoors that overcome huge obstacles, and they reach different peaks in their life. And we would create these films, and then we would hold a peak film series up in Sundance. And we got a lot of local brands that get involved to donate stuff. We'd show 3 or 4 of these films. We'd open it up to the public. We'd sell it out. 150 people there. Not that we were selling our product at all there, at all. We didn't have any of our product there for sale. But it was all about storytelling and thinking outside of the box. And all these people now were aware of who we were and what they did. A lot of these people didn't know who Peak Refuel was before we did these events. But they did when they left. And they understood who we were as a brand, what we stood for, what our mission was all about. And I guarantee you, everybody eats, especially if you're in the outdoor industry. Everybody eats. And so that was our mindset. It's, man, anyone who's going up to the mountains on a weekend to spend time with their family, our competitor isn't another freeze-dried mill. Our product was quality enough that our competitor was hot dogs and hamburgers. And so if we can get people to purchase that, instead of going to the store and getting hot dogs and hamburgers before they go out, because it's a lot easier to cook, just add hot water into a bag, and it tastes, in my opinion, our product just as good. That's what we wanted to do, and we had to think of ways to do it. So again, I'm harping on thinking outside of the box. Has anyone seen this? Sorry, it's a girl in a tank top. Sorry if that offends you, but has anyone seen this ad before? It's kind of I realized when I put that up. Glad there's no kids there, but has anyone seen this ad before? Yeah. Yeah, this ad.
Most of them aren't born by 84.
What's that?
Most of these guys weren't born in 1984.
I know, but still, it changed. If you're a sports fan, it changed. This is like the first Super Bowl commercial that changed everything. And this kind of sums up what we're talking about. Because of time, I won't show it. But you can go watch it. It's only a minute long, but it's a story of Apple when they launched the Macintosh, the very first Macintosh. And it's the concept of thinking different. The whole thing I've been talking about. And this ad that Steve Jobs, it cost them just over $1 million to do. They bought 2 ads. They hired Ridley Scott to direct this film. It cost them a ridiculous amount of money to make this commercial. It was the first commercial ever that was storytelling. They showed it to the Apple board and they told them, sell the commercial ads. We're not showing this. This is ridiculous. This is crazy. Absolutely not. Steve sold one of them and secretively kept the other one, and without the board knowing, they showed this ad in the '84 Super Bowl. And within the next 3 months, Apple did over like $150 million in sales of the Macintosh computer because of this ad. And it was all about thinking differently. It's only a minute, so maybe we
I was like,
you
okay.
gotta go.
You teased that a little good. On January 24th, Apple Computer will introduce Macintosh, and you'll see why 1984 won't be like 1984.
So nothing crazy about it, right? But if you understand, back there in '84, there was one big company, it was IBM, that dominated the computer space, and it was just, they were strictly for businesses. You didn't have a home computer back then in the '80s. You strictly just did it for business. And Steve Jobs and Steve Woz, they wanted to change everything and say, you need to have an in-home computer. And that was like, are you crazy? That's the stupidest idea ever. And so this ad represents everyone in the world is zombies doing whatever IBM tells you to do, because everything that they were creating with the Macintosh, their competition said that's stupid. Nobody's going to ever want to buy this thing. And so that ad represents that the world was just zombies listening to whatever IBM said. The girl represented Macintosh, threw the hammer, broke the status quo, and then they said, on January 24th, I believe was what the date said, they're going to launch something, and it's going to change. And it did. It changed the world. That not only did it change the world for computers and how you consume content and everything. It all started back in '84, but it also changed the way for marketing as well. This was the very first, the longest commercial storytelling commercial that ever appeared on the Super Bowl, and now you know how the Super Bowl commercials are. Excuse me, it's because of Apple computers.
So Bart, sorry,
Yeah.
I keep the idea in my head keeps rolling in, and it's connect. Like what it did is it made people connect, right? It connected
Exactly.
them to the product, right?
Yeah.
So it seems like to me that what you're saying is that you need to figure out how to help people connect to your product or your service.
Oh.
If you're a lawn care
100%.
provider, right, there's 9 million of them out there, but how are you going to get them to connect to you? Like, we have this cute little kid, 14-year-old kid in our neighborhood that wanted to mow people's lawns. And his motto was nice grass instead of nice.
I love
right?
that.
And he ended up mowing a lot of yards because people could
Resonate
connect
with
to
that,
that.
yeah.
Like I started a tea pointing business 20 years ago. And like I had to compete with all the dental offices.
Yeah.
And I had this customer that sounded like the guy that was the host of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous.
Right.
Do you remember his accent? Lifestyles of the
Yeah.
Rich and Famous.
Yeah.
And we actually did a radio ad with him being in it, and it completely flooded all of our locations because people could connect to it. They thought that they would be rich and beautiful if they came to the mall and
Yep.
got their tea point.
Yep.
So I think that's.
You're absolutely
Yeah,
right.
I'm understanding that correctly.
100%. 100%. If you back earlier in that book, Start With Why, Simon Sinek always talks about that. The connection is you need to be able to connect with somebody. When you understand your why, it makes it easier for you to connect with somebody. I use the word with all of this, when it comes to digital marketing, I use the term authenticity above everything else. Because one thing you'll quickly learn is if you're authentic, you can connect with somebody and people will respect you and want to work with you because you're authentic. If you're fake and you're just doing it, for the transaction, there's transactional relationships and then there's authentic, genuine relationships. And if you're thinking, hey, I'm in it for the transactional relationship, you're gonna lose. Especially now in this world, because it's so noisy, because there's so many people out there. There's so many options for people to go to the next person. But if you have that relationship, you can connect with them and you're authentic and real, and that shines through in your messaging, they'll go with you even if they have a bad experience because they know, they trust you that you're going to make it up for them, right? But if it's just transactional and they have a bad experience, they're gone, right? If they're gone, they're going to the next one. You got a little bit more of a rope, right? If you're authentic, you're real. We're in the world, we do make mistakes, you know, a shipping mistake, or you mess up on someone's order or whatever. They're going to be a little bit more forgiving that way, right? So you're absolutely right. So thinking differently, I'm kind of running, I'm already at 7.
Okay, we started a little bit late.
Okay. A few more things here before we end. But thinking differently, that whole concept, trying to connect with people. These are a lot of the different areas in digital marketing that you can look at. Obviously, ambassadors, influencers, people, if you're not familiar with that term, that's these people that are on social that have a big network, and you partner with them to go share your message to their networks, right? But the great way of what this does for you is it gives you a level of credibility and authenticity, right? So when I was telling you, we were earlier on in that example when I would message 40 people every single night, what Instagram would let me message, I was going after ambassadors and influencers, because these people, for our product, we needed to get people to try our product. I was willing to give them free product just to have them try it. So I thought, okay, these people are going out anyway. I'm going after people that hunt, I'm going after people that hike, that camp, that recreate. They're going out anyway, and they're gonna stop at the store and buy food anyway. So I'm gonna message them and say, hey, can I give you some free food? Go out and try it. 100%, they all said, absolutely, yes. And because I have confidence in my product, I knew they were gonna then become customers.
So with that kind of stuff, did you use like some of the key scores to figure out what ambassadors and influencers to use, or macro?
Yeah.
Like influencers, did you approach those?
We did, well, we did later on.
Oh, I
But
see.
earlier on, it was strictly, I would look at our competition and I would go after
I
theirs.
see.
And it was all manual. It was all me looking at their profiles. And you can tell by looking at these people's profiles if they're real or if they're fake. If they're believable, if somebody's got, I mean, not to get lost in the weeds, but you'd be looking at profiles and someone might have 100,000 followers, but they get 10 likes and no comments. Nah, I'm going to the next person because they bought all of those followers, every single one of them. So I was going after people that maybe only had 2,000, 3,000, 4,000 followers, but they had 30 comments and they had 300 likes, right? Those are the people I targeted and went after, because everyone else was fake. They went and bought as many followers as they could so they could look like they were big. So we attacked it from that angle. Brand collaborations is a big one that I'm going to talk about. This one changed the trajectory of my business. Product launches, which I'll talk about in a minute, but there's so many different areas to think differently of what you can do with your service and your product. So let me just share this example real quick, as we're running short on time. Does anyone know who Jason Hairston is? Has anyone heard of the brand Kuyu before? So he's the founder of Kuyu. He founded Sitka. If you know what Sitka is. He founded Sitka. He played for the 49ers. He was a football player, just to tell you who he is. He played for the 49ers. When he was done playing in the NFL, he was a big hunter and a big outdoorsman. And he then went and founded Sitka. He saw a problem in the outdoor industry that the camo and the gear that was offered out there wasn't great. So he came up with a solution and created a high-end camo brand, right? That had good gear, good water gear, comfortable gear, and he created Sitka. And his whole mindset was, it's going to be direct to consumer. I want to control my message with my customer. So it was direct to consumer. As it got big, he had to bring on investors and board members, and they changed the trajectory of that business and said, no, we want to go retail. We can still sell to customers, but we also want to get into Cabela's and we want to get into Bass and Sportsman's. And he said, okay, buy me out. I'm out. That's not why I started this company. That's not what I believe in. So he got bought out and he went and started Kuyu. And for any of you that knows the brand Kuyu, you can only get Kuyu on Kuyu.com. Can't get it anywhere else. That was his vision, because he wanted to be able to have that connection with the customer. He wanted to control the whole experience from when somebody landed on the website, made a purchase, until it arrived at their house. He was a visionary that way. Not that it was like a new concept by any means, but in that world and in that space, he stood true to his principles, that's what he wanted. So I admired KUIU quite a bit early on when we started our company. It was a really cool brand, and it fit the same people that we were selling products to. So here's an example. I messaged him. I messaged the CEO and founder of KUIU on, it doesn't show the date up here, but it was August 8th, 2018. And we launched in April, so it was a few months after we had launched. And I messaged him and just told him who I was. And I mean, again, I went back and I read this message when I was creating this slide, and I was like, I wasn't even following my own principles when I wrote that message. Like, that's not really explaining my why at all. That's just me saying, hey, I'm blind, will you throw me some money when I read this. But anyway, I sent that message to him, and the next day he responded. And he said, hey, I'd love to try your meals, as you can see there. He's heading to Alaska. Here, ship him to my house. And so I said, sure. And we immediately shipped him some of our meals. He was heading to Alaska. And any of you, I mean, not to get lost in the story, but if any of you know who he is, after his Alaska trip on September 4th, he took his life. He was battling with some internal demons from his playing careers in football, amongst other things. And so it was kind of sad because, you know, we were really excited, and then, man, this happens, and you're like, I feel horrible for him and his family, 2 little kids and his wife, and you just feel horrible and gutted for him. And so the way he treated me, I always had a special place in my heart for KUIU, and always kind of wanted to do something with them. And so I have up their brand collaborations. And so what I did was, 2 years later, we reached out to his wife, and we said, hey, we want to do a collaboration. We had grown a little bit. We want to do a collaboration with KUIU. Would you be willing to come stop by our booth at the Hunt Expo? I'd love to talk to you. She didn't respond to any of our messages. But we had a friend of their brand and a friend of our brand who connected us. And she came to our booth, and she had a big entourage with her. She travels with a lot of people, and they, like, all of a sudden, like, there's 30 people in this little booth that we had, and she's standing there. And I was able to tell her, hey, early on when we first started, I told her this story. And I just told her how much I appreciated Jason taking the time to respond back to me. He didn't have to respond back to me at all, but he responded back, and he took our meals, and her son was with her in the booth, and his son was with him on this hunt. And it was really cool. Her son's name is Cash, which our son's name is Cash, and there's some other Cashes in here as well. And so we were able to make that connection. And he said, you know what? I remember trying your guys' food when we were in Alaska. I remember it because it was the best food that we had that whole time. It was really cool to hear him say that. And then she said, yeah, you said you had a collaboration. She said, yeah, we want to do a game meal with you, like an elk meal. And we did it with Chad Mendez, if anyone knows who that is. We also collaborated with him because he's a KUIU ambassador. And we created these meals. And we donated on the back, we put their logo on it, and we donated a certain portion of every single meal to KUIU Conservation Direct, which is their conservation program, in his name. And it was just a cool, like, full circle moment for me, you know, when we first started, all those tedious nights of thinking differently and thinking outside of the box and being uncomfortable and sending messages to people and having someone respond and then have it come full circle. It was really special for me to be able to see that. And so I would encourage you to think differently, because that little interaction changed the whole direction of our company. From that, we were able to, you know, we did a collaboration with him and Chad Mendez. And with that, I don't know if this will show, but we did a launch. Does anyone know who Bruce Buffer is from the UFC? We did a launch with him where he launched these meals. You can see these are the 2 KUIU patterns. We wrapped them in our product and had Bruce Buffer announce it for us. But because of that, we also got on Rogan.
Freeze-dried things
Rogan,
like
the biggest
that.
podcast.
So this is
It's great
in the
stuff,
world.
dude. It's a really
Talking
good
about our
company. It's
product.
really good.
appreciate it, man.
We didn't pay a dime for
created
this
2
at all.
game meat recipes. We did elk
So-
and we did a bison last year. And
Anyway, for us thinking differently, it led to so many different opportunities that I didn't even think of 4 or 5 steps down the road. I was just thinking, hey, I want to get my product in somebody's hands. That's a big influential person in the industry, and maybe some doors will open. And because of that, and thinking, hey, let's think big, let's think different, let's not be scared, let's adapt, or we're going to die. We got to adapt and think differently. Good things happen. That also opened up the opportunity to do a collaboration with Meat Eater, and so we've got a couple different Meat Eater meals that we do with Steve and his team. We've been able to be on Mr. Beast 7 or 8 times now, which may sound cool to kids. To adults, it means nothing. It does nothing for our brand, I'll promise you that right now. Think back to what I said earlier, know your demographic. Little 13-year-old boys don't eat freeze-dried food. But it's still, I mean, it gives me street cred with my nephews and my kids to know that our product has been on Mr. Beast a lot. Now that's happened, and Mr. Beast, one of his best friends, owns an outdoor store. And he sells our product in it, and Mr. Beast buys everything from him and likes our product for some reason. I don't know why. But anyway, we've been on Do Perfect as well a couple times. And so what's crazy is thinking outside the box and using influencers, ambassadors to get your message and your product in front of people. None of these cost us anything. Joe Rogan, to have him talk about you on his podcast, he's done it twice now, but just to do a 30-second ad on Rogan is 6 figures. It's crazy. It's like over $250,000 and not worth it, I promise you. But to have him do it organically twice, those are opportunities that you never know are going to come unless you think big and you think outside the box and you act on it and you reach out and you get over that fear of trying to reach out. The last thing I'll end on, a couple things, is I have this one down here. If I had more time, I'd do a case study on this. There's this guy named Canadian Prepper who's up in Canada. And he has been trying to do a collaboration with us ever since we began. And I said no, because he's more of a prepper. And I was like, no, our food isn't a prepper food. Our food is like outdoors hunting, even though it's freeze-dried and that gets lumped into food storage and prepping. I don't want to go that route. That's not who our brand is, right? Our brand is we're an outdoor hunting, hiking, camping brand, not the food storage doomsday brand. But he kept saying, hey, I want to work with you guys. I want to work with you guys. It's going to cost you this to work with me. And I was like, we're not doing it. We're not doing it. And just to kind of give me the middle finger one day, he does a video on us, just to prove the power of his YouTube channel. And he's got a big YouTube channel, but it's nothing that like you would think, look twice at. I mean, he had like 200,000 subscribers or something, which is big, but like not that big. Anyway, Crystal and I were, I don't know if you remember this, we were on a trip in Florida, and all of a sudden our website is like blowing up. Biggest day we have ever had. I was like, Rogan must have talked about us, because the last time this happened, we had a big day on our website because Rogan mentioned us. But this was like 10 times what Rogan did. And I was like, man, Rogan must have really went off on us on his website. The next 3 days, same thing. I won't tell you the numbers, but it was like crazy numbers that we did. We got back into, it was over the weekend. Got back in on Monday when we flew back, and I was like, guys, what happened? We were scouring all of Rogan's podcasts, and I got an email. There was an email in my inbox from Nate, a Canadian prepper, subject line, "You're welcome." I'm not joking. You're welcome. And that was it. And I was like, I had to eat crow. I was like, oh my gosh, I went back and watched this video. And I couldn't believe the power that dude had. He had more power and influence over Joe Rogan, who has the biggest podcast out there. And this guy who has a YouTube channel and he's up in Canada just gave us, even to this, like the biggest 3 days we've ever seen on our website. And it's not even, like we did 3 days what we do like in a whole month on what this guy did on like a 5-minute segment on a video he did on YouTube. And so it just shows, like, don't get deceived, Mike, going back to what you're saying, don't get deceived because someone has 100, 200,000 followers and they talk a big talk and they say, hey, I'll move the world for you. Just pay me this. I'll move the needle for you. I've heard a lot of people do that and it does nothing for you, right? But then there's sleepers out there that have this niche, that have this loyal following, that will do anything that they say. And if you can find that and you can ride that, it helps your brand big time. I could do a whole hour on that, like case study of making sure you find the right people and not ignoring the ones like I did for a long time, ignoring this guy because I was worried it was going to hurt our brand and cheapen our brand because we were paying some guy to talk about it when it was completely the opposite. So I'll just end with, let's see. Well, and this is an example I was talking earlier, special events. Think just, again, thinking outside the box. What are different things that you can do? Expos, events, community events, whatever you can do to gather people, get people to your either if you have a storefront or you have whatever you offer. I mean, we had lawn care service, real estate agents, batting kit, whatever it is. Like if you just think outside the box, what can you do to collaborate with other brands to get people to your facility to try it, right? Either at a discount or for free if you can cough that up, whatever it is, think of different events. This is the first video that we did at our film series up at Sundance. I was telling you about Peak to Peak. We featured, this is Kimber Cross. If you guys want to go watch her story, it's unbelievable. It's about a 7-minute film we did on her. She's a kindergarten teacher from Washington. She's a great follow on Instagram, by the way. Every day she comes home and does the kindergarten quote of the day. It's so funny, things that her kindergartens ask her. But she's an adaptive ice climber, which means she was born without one of her hands. And so she developed this claw that like straps onto her hand so she can still ice climb with a prosthetic arm, which is really cool. We did a story on her. But her motto was can't, will, did. Everyone told her you can't do this. And then she told herself, well, I am going to do that. And then she did do it. Now she's sponsored by Subaru and Arc'teryx and all these big brands. She's enormous now, and I'm lucky that she's still an ambassador for us. But incredible story. But I'll just end with how I started. Oh wait, this is her. I'm not going to show that. But I'll end here. I'm
Okay.
out of time. So this is how I started. Here's to the crazy ones. Just circling back. You got to get crazy in this business. You got to be a little wild. You got to think outside the box. Break down the status quo. It's noisy out there. Find a way to stand out. Find a way to stand out. And you got to do that by thinking differently, because if you think the same way your competitor thinks, you're probably going to get beat. And it's not because you didn't do it right. It's because you both are doing the exact same thing. They think they're getting beat, you think you're getting beat, you're both doing the same thing, talking to the same people, delivering the same message. Think different. Be crazy. Get out of your comfort box. Get out of your comfort zone. Do whatever you got to get creative and be a little crazy. So this is, I'll end with this. It's short. Again, I think it's only 30 seconds. But this is the ad that Steve Jobs, if you know the story of Steve Jobs, I'm obsessed with him, just finished his autobiography, which he's not a good dude. I'll just say that. He's not a great dude, but he's a great marketer and a great businessman. And later in life, he became a little bit better. But when he came back in '97, as Apple was tanking and going out of business, they brought him back to take over as CEO. And he had to change the whole mindset of the way Apple was going to change the world and move differently. And that's when he launched this whole Think Different campaign. But he created this campaign that launched everywhere called Here's to the Crazy Ones. And so I'll just end with this. And then if there's questions, if you guys have questions, I'm happy to answer.
Here's to the crazy ones. The misfits. The rebels. The troublemakers, the round pegs in the square holes, the ones who see things differently. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify glorify or vilify that. But the only thing you can't do is ignore them. Because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
All right. Well, think different, guys. Be crazy. Change the status quo. That's all I have.